We're back. Another episode of the Golden View podcast. It is Wednesday, July 16th, a 10 a.m. slot with my friend Niall Donohue from C's Plus Baseball, the man who is also the voice of the Vancouver Canadians if you arrive at the ballpark half an hour early before the game and throughout the game, as now as the in-game announcer and my personal opinion, one of the best in the business to do it. But let's get into Niall. Welcome. Our regular Canadians update for the month. We're talking off the air, obviously, about a few things. And as you said, when we last left, for those who do not understand, these Seas were battling for a playoff spot based on the first half standings of the Northwest League. And we find ourselves now into the second half. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, last time we spoke, we were hoping the Canadians were going to clinch a first half playoff berth. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Everett won by virtue of a tiebreaker. The Aqua Sox and the Seas finished tied with the same first half record, but because the Frogs won 7 out of 12 against the Canadians in the first half, that is why the Canadians find themselves having to battle it out now for a second half playoff berth and for the right to go to Everett for the Northwest League Championship Series. So we only know one thing, that the trophy is going to be handed out in Everett in mid-September, but Canadians are hoping they'll be the ones to grab hold of it and try to repeat their 2023 success when they won against Everett in 4 games. But disappointing end to after what was, I believe, an 11-game winning streak. Unfortunately, the Canadians slipped up once in the first or the final 3 games of the first half, but Everett just kept right on winning. Spokane just could not help them out in any way, shape, or form. Everett won their 3 games, and the Canadians could only get 2 out of 3 against Eugene. And unfortunately, that's how it worked out for the Canadians. So disappointing, and I think, who knows, maybe the Canadians, maybe still feeling the after effects of that disappointment. They were able to win 3 out of 5 against Eugene, and in that week, but they returned home against Tri-City, and I'll tell you what, that must have been the most frustrating series for the Canadians. Certainly one of the most excruciating series I've ever. The Canadians, after they were able to get hits whenever they needed them, they just could not buy really a key hit. I mean, the fact that Tri-City only won 4 out of 6, it almost felt like it could have been 5 out of 6. The Canadians certainly had a chance to at least gain a split. Didn't work out that way. And, of course, the theme of the season, 1-run losses. I've totally lost track. I think it's 17 or 18 on the season now, but there were a few in that Tri-City series. And that's really been the story of this. If maybe one of those had gone the other way instead, the Canadians could have had that first half playoff berth all wrapped up. And, that's just the way it is. And now they just have to focus on the second half. It looks like the team is getting back on track. They were able to win 5 out of 6 against Everett with the last 3 games in Everett. So after losing on Canada Day, the Canadians bounced back with 5 straight wins. And then they were able to take 4 out of 6 in Hillsborough. It could have been 5 out of 6. But the Canadians were unable to hold a lead in the Sunday finale and settled for the series victory, but easily could have been 5 out of 6. And again, say it with me one more time, 1 run loss. It's just been unbelievable. You almost have to
one run losses. Yeah. And actually just sharing the screen here too. That's a great piece of information. Your little rant dialogue now, that's exactly why you're here. Because you summarize everything so well. You're there all the time. You're so immersed in this stuff. And I just shared the standings too for those of us following on YouTube, because Vancouver sits first overall, up a game on Eugene in the overall Northwest League standings, right? So so technically we're first right now, a game on Eugene, 6.5 games on Everett, 6.5 on 6.5 on Everett and Tri-City. And one of my favorite teams and our old nemesis from the last couple of seasons sees the Spokane Indians, and I got Indians right this time instead of saying Chief.
There you go.
Sitting at 8.5 back. So heading into tonight, obviously we're in Spokane tonight. I'll be writing my usual Batters Box update, Wednesday night summary, probably tomorrow morning. Looking back at last week's games, obviously in Hillsborough last week, Wednesday night losing 7-6 to Hillsborough. what are we going to see in this series against Spokane? Because in the past couple of years, that was the sort of pivotal series or in a half of a season, right?
Yeah,
And I
it's
still remember those guys on that team, Cole Carrig, right? I mean,
Karras, yes.
yeah, yeah, right. Kyle Karros, thank you. Right, those
Yeah.
three guys, and I still have that lineup from last year. And I think now that I'm doing batters box updates, I see those same three names popping up, but they're in Double A. So let's talk a little bit about this series against Spokane, because it always seems like these series are a critical part of the Vancouver Canadians' push to make the playoffs.
Well, the Canadians are hoping that the last series they took on Spokane at the Nat, hopefully that'll follow straight to form with the first 3 games out of the break against Spokane and first 3 of what will be a 10-game homestand for the Seas. 3 against Spokane, of course. Last time the Canadians took on Spokane at the Nat, Canadians were able to sweep Spokane in 6 straight, and that was a big part of their 11-game winning streak. So, which was a franchise record in the high A era. So, that was. The Canadians hope that will hold the form, and then, but certainly they can't overlook Spokane because Spokane has been off to a pretty decent start in the second half as well. So, and unfortunately, with the overall standings, the way it goes right now, that really has no bearing on the playoff positioning. And right now, the Canadians find themselves, I believe it is 4 games back of Eugene. So that makes that series against Eugene absolutely huge. But the Canadians, before they have to worry about Eugene, they got to take care of Spokane first. Spokane, I don't know, maybe the Canadians will try to take things out of Spokane a little bit. If Spokane had provided just a smidge of help before the first half ended by taking at least 1 from Everett before the first half closed, the Canadians could have had themselves a playoff berth. So maybe the Canadians will come in with a chip onto their shoulder and get the homestand off to a good start. But so as I said, 7 games against Eugene, and one of those games is going to be made up where the Canadians will actually be the road team. It's a doubleheader on Thursday. The following, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, it'll be a doubleheader at 1:00. And the Canadians originally had that game scheduled at 1:00, so it kind of works out in a way that, well, if we're going to be there all day, we might as well tack on another game as well. So the Canadians will actually be batting first in one of the games, and Eugene will have the last at bat, so to speak. So that's how that's going to work out. But so it's a huge 10-game homestand. I think it's really going to have a huge bearing on whether or not the Canadians can contend for a second half playoff berth. But they're going to have a pretty different look doing it because Canadians have waved goodbye to a number of players going on to New Hampshire.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that here.
Coming up from Dunedin as well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a bunch of transactions. That always helps. And there's some names in there, I wanted to show some recognition to that I really enjoyed watching at the ballpark, Javon Ward being one of them. So I'm just looking at transactions here on the Canadians website. I'll share it in the chat. Obviously, Javon Ward, I remember, being at the ballpark working last year and this year, just remember thinking what he offered to that lineup was some clutch moments of hitting, right? And the game that you got me tickets for in June, that game where they hit like 3 home runs, right? I mean, obviously, Javon Ward is gone. It's nice to see Che Yeager moving up. Johan Simon, I know nothing about. Maybe you can share. Bo Bonds, I remember. Obviously, Jay Harry is gone. Kendry Rojas is gone. Who was up in the bigs recently that I saw on the Blue Jays Twitter account? Was it Laszlo Estrada was somewhere?
Oh, Lazaro Estrada, that's right. Yes, he soaked up some big innings during a Saturday game against the Angels, a game the Blue Jays went on to eventually win. Unfortunately, got sent back down the next day, but he certainly made a big-time contribution. He was there to eat up innings, and he did the job. So good to see Lazaro Estrada getting his cup of coffee in the majors, and hopefully he'll be back up again soon enough.
Yeah, I always remember learning that term as a kid, when I was at a baseball camp. I don't know if it still exists in Asuyas or in Oliver, BC. I went to a baseball camp when I was 13 and 14. Talking to a guy there as an instructor at the time, and I think he was talking about Tug McGraw, the famous pitcher, and how this particular guy went up to the majors for a cup of coffee, met Tug McGraw, right? So when you hear that cup of coffee term, people don't always, they're like, what does that mean? It's not a physical cup of coffee. It's like, you get up there for a quick 15 minutes, burst of fame. And then you're and then you're down, right? So looking at a couple other recent transactions since we last spoke, obviously we talked about Jackson Hornung, who another guy who there's something about that guy, when I see Jackson at the plate or I see him on the field, he just has something. I don't know if it's charisma. I don't know what it is. There's something in Jackson's game. Maybe it's character, maybe it's being cagey. I don't know. There's something about him. When I see him step on the field, I'm like, something's happening there. I mean, Kendry Rojas, in June, at the end of June, activated from the 7-day injured list. We talked about Trey Savage last month. He's obviously already up with New Hampshire. Anything else standing out for you guys activated or guys moving up?
Well, Jay Harry coming back from New Hampshire. He got off to a tremendous start to the season with the C's, was bumped up to New Hampshire, but fell on tough times there. But Jay Harry had a walk-off hit against Tri-City, so that was a nice welcome back for him. Okay. So good to have that, that veteran experience really in the infield to help out with Arjun Amala and Nick Goodwin and Bryce Arnold, who's now back in the fold from Grimsby, Ontario. He finished off last year with the Canadians, but was assigned to Dunedin to start the year. Had a pretty good year in Dunedin. Right. A bit of a tough start with the bat, but it's starting to come around a little bit now. But good to have that Canadian content back in the lineup. Just touching upon Jackson Hornung, though, I'm very happy for the way things have been going for Jackson Hornung. I think quality individual, first off. It's still, to me, it's still a head scratcher that he began the season on the development list, even though he was Northwest League All-Star last season, led the team in hits last season. Yeah. And you have to wonder if Hornung might have been activated a little bit sooner. Maybe he could have been the difference in one of those early season games, and the Canadians could have had a playoff berth. I don't know. These are the kind of things that keep me up at night. But good for Jackson, though, that he finally did get that promotion to AA. Well-deserved. Javon Ward, another quality individual. Of course, his dad was a wide receiver in the CFL, played for the Ottawa Rough Riders back in the day, and, of course, played college ball with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Awesome. But Javon Ward led the Northwest League on walks at the time of his call-up. I know the batting average wasn't necessarily there, but you know what? If you get on base, that's the name of the game. I mean, he's really kind of the perfect Moneyball player, and I hope he does well in AA as well. So it's good to see those guys moving on. And we mentioned Jay Harry already. Kendry Rojas, I know he was listed on Vancouver's roster, but basically I think that was just a paper move. I thought he might have been coming back to Vancouver maybe for a start or two, but no, instead he was bumped up immediately from Dunedin to New Hampshire. And speaking of Kendry Rojas, he was the Eastern League Pitcher of the Week for New Hampshire, so he's doing very well. So good to see that happening for Kendry. And speaking of Rojas's, certainly like to wish the best to Yandre Rojas. Apparently took a line drive in the head during that Hillsborough series. I didn't see it. So the game was delayed by, I believe, about 20 minutes. And, and I believe it was a concussion. I believe if I'm hearing that correctly. So hopefully he's doing okay. And hopefully we'll see him back on the mound sooner rather than later for the Canadians. But we certainly wish him a speedy recovery. I mean, nothing has been finalized yet as to his roster status. We don't see him on the injured list as of yet, but I think you'll see the transactions column probably get updated closer to Friday when the season kicks up again. That's usually kind of the way it tends to work out. But certainly we send our best wishes to Yandre Rojas.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because I'm kind of cynical. I didn't watch the home run derby. I don't really watch the All-Star game. I was thinking about the trade deadline, and I was like, now the real season's going to start in baseball. Let's get into the dog days of summer in August. Right? Yeah, and you know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't mean I don't, really think there's value in the All-Star game or the home run derby. It's just sometimes not on my radar. And I was like, when I was thinking about transactions in Vancouver and higher up in the chain, and seeing what's going on in Toronto and the trade deadline, and looking at the Blue Jays rotation after the All-Star game, like their major league rotation. I don't know who's in Buffalo that could affect that rotation, but just feels like now you're into the part of the season. People say, oh, baseball is such a long game at 162 games. But when you get down to the nitty gritty here like this, and you get into August, it's like, okay, things are happening, and, things are moving, right? Like, in terms of, trades and player movement and player development and expanded rosters, and seeing who's got the ability in the major leagues to push for a playoff spot. And I think about 2 years ago when there's surprises like the Diamondbacks, right?
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting time for the Blue Jays in first place at the All-Star break for the first time in quite a while, and setting a record for most victories by the All-Star break.
Yep.
Despite the disappointing end to the road trip, losing 2 out of 3 against Sacramento.
Yeah.
Losing 3 out of their last 4. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a 2-game lead, but might have been a little bit bigger had the Blue Jays been able to. But again, who knows? I mean, yeah, it's the dog days. I mean, Sacramento is not exactly a cold place in California, from what we've been hearing. It gets really toasty in Sacramento, especially on that field in West Sacramento. So I don't know. Maybe it just kind of caught up to the Jays. Maybe they were kind of looking ahead to a nice break. But, same with the Canadians, too. I think it's a chance for them to kind of reset and hopefully get things back on the beam and make that charge for a second-half playoff berth and hopefully get in the Northwest League Final for the 4th consecutive year. So, but it's going to be an interesting time because you got the trade deadline coming up in about 2 weeks' time. You're going to have promotions and call-ups and that sort of thing. And for what we've been hearing, apparently the reports are that Sam Shaw of Victoria, BC, an outfielder, will be promoted from Dunedin to from Dunedin to Vancouver. Not New Hampshire yet. I mean, we hope to keep Sam for a little bit before he goes to New Hampshire. Hopefully that will be the end result down the line, but we like to keep Sam a little bit, try to welcome him back to his home province. And catcher Edward Duran, who's been hitting up a storm and has been throwing out base runners at a pretty good clip down at Low A Dunedin. So those guys are supposed to be up, and we should see them when the homestand begins Friday against Spokane. But the Canadians will also be saying goodbye to pitcher Cal Steven, the Northwest League pitcher of the month for June, and not a surprise at all. He was absolutely outstanding, certainly very deserving of the call-up. Thankfully, we did get to see him a few times at the Nat, unlike Trey Savage, who we only got to see the one time. But Cal Steven definitely moving on after an ERA below 2, so certainly deserving of the call-up. And also Victor Arias, outfielder, center fielder for the Canadians. He's getting called up with a batting average near 300, so good to see him move on. And Canadians will miss him. I mean, they've missed a lot of guys, Javon Ward, and of course, Jackson Hornung, and now Victor Arias. But the Canadians still do have some guys who are really finding their form, like Eddie Micheletti, leads the team and the organization in home runs, and was also a player of the week not too long ago. So Eddie Micheletti, he's really going to be counted upon now. Sean Keyes also going to be counted upon now. They're both starting to tap into their power a little bit more. And Carter Cunningham, he's hit a couple of big home runs along the way as well. So that's who the Canadians are going to be looking to as the second half of the season really gets underway after the All-Star break.
Yeah, thanks, Niall. Let's wrap it up there. My only last tidbit of thought was when I turned on the Sacramento games on the weekend. I'm like, that ballpark looks weird. I'm like, wait a minute. We're not in Oakland anymore at the Oakland Coliseum, which I've been watching ever since I started watching baseball. And you kind of are interested in how the ballpark looks, and you watch a little bit on TV expecting the A's to be in that ballpark as a home team, and just being curious, at least I am, about what that ballpark is like to watch a ball game. And then you're like, Sacramento?
Yeah.
It's strange, right?
Yeah, it's very strange. Actually, one other thing I would like to throw in before, Che Yeager, I also like to give a shout out to him as well. He was very good.
Yeah, he was the game I saw. The game I saw in June, he was excellent. And I remember working at the ballpark all of last year and talking to him. And then I think I helped his dad get into the bullpen once because he wanted to talk to him. And I just remember watching Che's development last year, and I remember thinking, like how consistent he was, or consistently inconsistent. I thought this year, the game that I saw, he was pitching really well in relief.
Yeah, he was pitching. He was being solid all season long, and the Canadians will miss him out of the bullpen. But certainly deserving of a call-up with that upper 90s fastball. And I think it did touch 100 maybe once or twice. But again, keep in mind that the radar gun can run a little bit hot. But Yeager consistently has been in the high 90s with his fastball. So good to see him move on and get a chance at Double-A. But some good news, the Canadians will have Bo Bonds back as he's been activated from the injured list. So So the Canadians do get a little bit of help back in their bullpen in Bo Bonds with his funky delivery. A lot of fun to watch him pitch. So good to have him back. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a huge homestand, 10 games, including 7 against Eugene with that doubleheader on Thursday. So a lot of baseball coming our way at Nat Bailey Stadium.
All right. Thanks, Niall. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks a million for having me on.
Okay. Bye-bye.